Hello Geeks Corner, this is Jason here, bringing you a very special episode of Geeks Corner Gamers. In this episode I will be giving you a quick tour of a Minecraft world I've been working on. This is the Dwarf Holds. I started work on this about 6 months ago, I want to say, sometime in December. I was building this while I was very much looking forward to seeing The Hobbit, and after I did see it, much of the design was inspired by it, and this is the entrance chamber. Eventually, all of this blank space between these light poles will all be filled with buildings. It will be like a town, a very large, thriving town. That will also fix the draw distance issue. But here are some of the specs of this world. It's started out as an ultra-flat stone world at about 200 blocks high, or something along those lines. I don't really remember. As I said, it was 6 months ago. But as you can see, it's huge. It's a massive scale. A lot of this was dug out by hand before I discovered the Minecraft World Editor software, which has helped me improve on by leaps and bounds. And this is one of the smaller scale buildings that's going to sort of populate. This is a test building to sort of see how I can work around the scale. It's also one of the only buildings to feature wood prominently, the idea being that this has been a dwarven city. They wouldn't have immediate access to wood. They'd have to trade with surface world villagers to get it, and even then they'd probably only get a very limited supply, so it'd only be used for very specific construction purposes, such as this tavern, for example, or maybe even scaffolding down in the mines, where the majority of their wealth is. And we'll come to the mines in a little bit, but so yeah, that was a quick look at the tavern. We didn't see all of it because it's still very much a work in progress. And now the video's now we're going to scoot along the path here. This is all designed to follow a certain pattern, everything being about 8 blocks apart from between lamp posts and such. It was very specific at the time. I can't really remember all the details now. I said it's been a while. That well also has a bit of significance to it, but we're not going to cover that in this video because it would just take too long. I had to cut this down quite extensively. This is the Hall of Kings, which was originally going to be about 50% small. It was going to be this chamber, which is the antechamber now, but I decided ultimately it worked better with this chamber. Also experimented with wool, getting some patterns in there that look very dwarvish. That floor down there was all constructed by hand to be sort of rocky and natural looking, and then I covered it with lava and sort of botched that pretty much. But behind us is the throne where the king would sit and rule over his subjects on a very narrow bridge, I might add. But now we're going to go downstairs, which I've fast forwarded. There's going to be a little bit of lag in the video here, mostly because we're going under the lava floor, and that tends to cause a few problems with particle effects and such. So there's some lava on the floor there. And this is the treasury, this was largely inspired by that scene from the Hobbit: The Unexpected Journey, where Thror is examining his hoard. Obviously, it's much more difficult to do with 1 by 1 by 1 blocks. And yeah, this will eventually be filled a lot more than I have done, and I'll probably go in and redo a lot of it just to get some patterns. There's some lava dripping through from the ceiling there. The Tower of Pimps in the corner, which is a reference to the Achievement Hunter Minecraft Let's Plays. If you watch those, you'll get it and maybe get a laugh out of it. This quartz structure here will be elaborated on further when I find the time to get back down here. Now we're back in the throne room. We're going to go through the other door beside the throne. This leads us up to the king's quarters. We'll also experience a little bit of lag because we're still getting away from that lava, which tends to linger a little while and does cause some problems. This is the waiting room, if you will, where important representatives of various parts of the city would come to speak with the king privately. This is a council chamber, which is separate from the main hall for the specific reason of I don't think that the king would, or a dwarvish king who would be particularly vain, this is his bed chamber, would necessarily include the general public in his affairs of state. I always like the idea here of the king would possibly post archers up here to deal with malcontents. It's also possibly a good spot for an assassination, you know, it also provides a very spectacular view of the room below, which I'm rather fond of, so I kept it mostly for aesthetics. And now we're going to go back out. This is the servants' access corridor, which will take us back down into the antechamber. There's some more experiments with wool and trying to figure out, you know, good colours, red and gold and blue and silver, you know, that sort of thing. You can see I mostly use glowstone in the ceiling there to get that down light, even though it doesn't cast as far as it probably should. And this is going to be the access to the Miners Guild, which probably I spent the longest time on when I was building this world, because there's a nice atmosphere there from the dusk outside. And this chasm goes all the way down to bedrock, so it is a huge descent into madness, if you will, given the amount of time I spent constructing these huge staircases. And in front of us here in this dugout section is the Miners Guild. You can see the pickaxe motif on the walls there. You will notice that, if you pay attention to the video, subtly put into the stonework of the building itself. And we'll just go inside, and obviously on the floor there to get a bit of a rug sense. I wanted this to look a bit more like a mead hall, just to give that sense of this is a place where they'd come to drink, be merry, and such after a hard day working down the mines. We're going to explore the mines in a little bit. This is the Hall of Records, where they'd probably find, you know, on such and such a day in the southeast tunnel, etc., we found so much gold or diamond or whatever, you know. And I'll go up to the living quarters and examine just what it might be like to live in this place. It'll be very cramped, I have always imagined. So they're small rooms, very sparsely decorated. Just a chest, a bookshelf, a bit, and a bed, and a chest, and the light. That's it, really. And now I'm going to take a look at something I've tried to sort of work into as much of the place as possible, which is secret passages. This is partly because I wanted to experiment with redstone circuitry, which I'd like to think I've sort of gotten the hang of now. It took a long time. It took me quite a while to get used to the idea of getting circuits working and hidden passages and such. But yeah, that's just one. There will be several more leading to various places, and there'll even be a few in the Hall of Kings, and that was the ale storehouse, but we're not going to go there just yet. We'll go there a bit later, because that's our way back up into the main city. Now let's take a little trip down the mine. You can see all the holes that have been dug out into the walls there. There'll be scaffolding leading to the majority of them later on, but for the most part I've been focusing on these staircases, and there's a little advertisement for Geeks Corner there, mostly to cover up a pop-up which wasn't supposed to show up in the screen capture but did. Okay, so now we're heading down. The lava floor here causes a few problems with my system, but it's mostly to cover up the fact that beneath it is bedrock, and it looked very bare if I left it alone, so I gave it lava, which also provides the nice glow which illuminates all of this, which is all of this was built before I had the world editor software, so I was going around adding jagged bits of dirt, and I never got around to finishing it either. I got distracted doing other things, and I will come back to it eventually. Seems to be the way with most of my construction, really, is I start doing something, then something else captures my attention. And now we're back at the Miners Guild. See what I mean? Distractible. It happens. Now we're going to go through the ale storehouse to a... this is where, you know, store your ale. This will also be a kitchen eventually, where they get all their meat and such cooked and meals. To give the idea that the Miners Guild is perhaps a bit more independent of the kingdom. You won't find the miners going off to the tavern so much as they would their own little club. And this is the transit system, which is also the supply line where they get the empty kegs stacked against the wall there. And the idea behind this was most of this kingdom would be getting goods from the surface world, because really their only real commodity is precious metals and jewels and stone, so everything else has to come from elsewhere. So we're going to follow this back to the transit hub, which was coming up here is the Great Spiral minecart ride, which was originally meant to be a lot less elaborate than this, but I wound up doing it mostly just to save on space. I didn't want to build a huge sort of network when I could just compress it all down into this. Okay, now we're in the transit hub, which, this being the Miners Guild supply line, it would just sort of rotate back around and head straight back out across that bridge. This is the Stone Guts, the tavern's supply line. We'll go down there in a moment. And over in the corner back there, we'll come to that in a little moment. This passage just leads back out to the so there's the Hall of Kings over there. There it is. So this is just off in that corner of the world. It's going to be very isolated. It's going to be a forge and various other things in the corner there. This is going to be where the Surface Guild trading post will be. Surface world hasn't been completely worked out yet. I haven't decided where it's going to be, so I haven't built that line up. We're not heading to back to Stone Guts. This is just to sort of give you an idea of what that passage looks like. And this goes under the main floor of the city, so I can't build a lot of basements just in case I run into it by accident. And this is my very special access to the surface, because once you seal those doors to get in here, you can't actually get back out without breaking them, so I needed a secret entrance. But since this was an ultra-flat stone world, none of this mountain was here to begin with. That's all been built up using a combination of World Editor and by hand, World Editor to fill in these solid rectangular bits, which you can see here because it's largely unfinished, and then by hand to fill in all of the little fiddly bits, which makes me think a lot of Slarty Bartfast from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, doing his fjords. I sort of get the feeling for how that must be like now that I've done so much of this. This exterior mountain bit, which is really large, it does cover the entire city and even extends a little bit beyond it. Like here you can see the stonework, which is the massive support struts that you saw above the Miners Guild chasm when we first entered it. So that's just to give you a bit of the idea of the scale of this. Yeah, we're just going to fast forward around these crags just until we get back around to the entrance. It's as you can see, it's been an absolute labour of I wouldn't say love per se, but it's been an ordeal. There was originally going to be a bit of a coastline along this area, which is why the sand is there, but I couldn't quite get it to work the way I wanted it to, so I filled it back in with grass and just haven't gone back through to remove the sand. And now we're back at the forest, and that beacon, which you can see heading off into the sky, is to remind me where the door is in case I ever forget, because chances are me being me, I will do that. Okay, and now we're back at the beginning. I hope you enjoyed this tour of my world, and hopefully I will have an update for you in the near future. This has been Jason for Geeks Corner Gamers, signing off.